Well, good morning, dear friends. What can one say when faced with such beauty? How's the sound to the internet? Okay? Great. Thank you. Hello out there. Is anyone here today for the first time? Please raise your hand. Oh, a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whoa. Hi. I'd sure love to know what brings you out here this morning. Though I think I know in a way, not the particulars, but some of us are fortunate enough to wake up, at least to some degree, from the trance of trying to be happy through consumption. And then we start looking. And I hope that this is a good spot for you. My actual wish always is, I hope this morning completely transforms all of our lives. Not in some incremental way, but that we all realize that if only for a half a second, our absolute interconnectedness with each other and all beings and the universe. Wouldn't that be nice? Brings to mind a thought. I had a relationship with Father Bernard McVeigh, who was the abbot of the Trappist monastery in Lafayette. I met him when he and Robert Aitken Roshi did several, they were either a week or 10 days, Zen Catholic sessions. And I had a Catholic childhood and then 10 years of Buddhist practice. And lots of stories about that. But I became... I would say I became Bernard was very helpful to me. And among the things that he shared with me was that I had to forgive the drunken priest of my childhood, because he had a second grade spiritual education. He was a parish priest. He'd had no training in the inner life at all. And so how could he teach that? How could he manifest that? But Bernard talked about the Mass, the Catholic Mass, and and my childhood was Latin. And what's the point of that? What's the communion thing? And I actually had a trauma when I was 5 years old, because I took my first communion and I didn't believe it was literally the body and blood of Christ. And that meant I would go to hell, but there was no one I could talk to about it. This came out therapy years and years after. But he explained to me the way the Mass is supposed to work is that there's no room for the priest to do any personal flourish. It's mudra. Every gesture is supposed to be identical. It's not for me to manifest my personality, but to be the purveyor of this miracle. And then at the moment, the point I'm trying to get to is at the point when the priest puts the little communion wafer on your tongue, the intention is for the recipient and the priest to become one with the Mass, to have a world-shaking, transpersonal experience where one realizes that one is the Christ. Now that makes sense. Say that again? So here it is. What could we do? We could look at this. Oh, this beautiful flower. Thank you to the flower person who brought these. We could look at this. So we're not taking communion, but we are going to look at this and open so fully to it that we're going to realize that there is no separation between that which you take to be you or this or the earth that it grew out of, that we truly are the infinite universe manifesting in this moment as this. Not as a concept, but it's really true. That's communion. And that's one of the reasons that we have mindful eating, because we eat that at any bite is, every bite is the body of the living earth. So, hence the great emphasis on living in the present moment. Because if we're into ideas of past and future, how could we can't possibly commune, because we're lost in thought. We're lost in propaganda. So, thank you. So, please join me to the degree you wish. We have there's this reminder in the Buddhist practice that of taking refuge in something. And the something is the Buddha, but not somebody who died a long time ago, though that's very inspiring, the fact of that person. But what in you, in me, is the Buddha right now? It's that which is awake. And that's pretty remarkable. Imagine that. You're conscious. Can you be aware of being conscious? So we take refuge in the Buddha, in that which is awake, in the Dharma, in the way things actually are, and then in the Sangha, in the community of practice, and the great community of all life. So please join in as makes sense for you. He's coming over the PA? Yeah. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Dharma. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Dharma. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. For thousands of years, people have done exactly what we're doing here this morning. We sit comfortably upright, doesn't have to be cross-legged. Comfortably upright and with the intention of being awake, being mindful. Every one of us in this room went to school for a long time. We were trained how to think, and it's a good skill, important skill, crucial. How to learn facts, to compare and contrast, follow rules. The one thing we most likely didn't encounter was instruction in how to become aware of thinking as a process and how to become aware of that out of which the thinking comes. So we become profoundly identified with thoughts. And thoughts are useful for many problems. They also create many problems. But the real question, who am I? What am I? What is my place in this universe? Has nothing to do with thought. Philosophy tries, but philosophy's tied in thought, rooted in thought. So this isn't a philosophy, it's a practice. It's a training in awakeness. And it's grounded in the simplicity of noticing that there's a body. We say conventionally, you have a body. More accurately, there is a body. And it is discernible as sensations. So notice the life in what you call your feet, in your legs, in your hands, fingers, arms, in the face, in the eyes. There's nothing you need to think about. It's just, oh right, this is life. And since this body is alive today, it's breathing. And so this breathing in and breathing out, which is our every moment reminder of our interconnection with life, is a quintessential meditation object, a mindfulness meditation object, to notice the fact, the reality of the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. Each breath you can notice has a beginning. It doesn't exist at all, and then it exists. And there's these sensations as breathing in occurs, and then there's a transition to breathing out, and then there are more sensations until they stop. With this foundation, or this rootedness in the present moment of this breath, and with the intention to stay here as best one can, the failure to stay becomes evident. And then awareness can notice the remarkable amount of wandering mind there is. The mind of memories of past and future, the mind of emotions, the trying to sort things out mind, the obsessive mind. And very importantly, we don't make of that wandering mind an enemy, but we become very curious. How is it to be, as best I can, with the sensations of breathing? And then time and again, waking up in the midst of a wandering mind. And then gently coming back to the breath. one helpful terminology in this practice is intimacy. How intimate dare you be with this body? How close dare you come? What if you got so close that you disappeared? That there wasn't any opinion or thought or imagination or fantasy. There was just breathing and awareness of breathing. Communion. When the mind has wandered into the past, or there are emotions, even strong emotions running, how intimate dare you be? How willing are you to fully embrace extraordinary joy or sadness or fear? This practice is one of coming to life, to really living more fully. is a certain gentle but very persistent effort required. The effort to bring awareness, to target awareness on the chosen meditation object, in this case, breathing in and breathing out, the sensations of that. The Buddhist psychology calls it initial application and then sustained application. So we bring awareness to the breath, the sensations, and then we make whatever that subtle effort is to stay there. It requires no tightening of muscles, no furrowing of the brow. It's a quality of intentionality. I intend to stay with this breathing. When the mind wanders, I intend to awaken to the wandering and then either to come back to the breath, or perhaps if the wandering experience, like pain in the body or some emotion, is powerful enough, then my intention would be to become profoundly intimate with that, to know that. So we assert this intention again and again, moment after moment, week after week, month after month, year after year. And in so doing, we shape our destiny, we shape consciousness. Breathing in, knowing it, breathing out, knowing it. this inner world of sensations, thoughts, emotions, perceptions, memories, plans, ideas. Becomes, rather than who I am, they all become objects of awareness. The thoughts, the obsessions, the fears, the joyfulness, the compassionate feelings, impulses, they all become objects of that which knows. And that's a radical transformation. And it happens bit by bit, one thought, one awakening at a time. It's said that the Buddha said that the taste of this practice at the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle of the journey is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. Freedom from identification with this body-mind process that exists in time. Those are all ideas, aren't they? Really feel, know, embrace the mysterious aliveness which is this body. It needs no descriptors. Please now become aware of the life in your hands. The life in your lips and tongue and mouth. The cheeks. The buttocks, where the pressure of the floor or cushion or chair presses into your body. Contact. And then up to the eyes, where there's life. And now being really aware of something that you do all the time, but usually not with awareness. Notice the intention to let your eyes open. And then mindfully making the effort that it takes to peel the eyelids up. It does take effort. And then be aware of seeing objects. Objects and the knowing of objects. seeing. And then maybe there's some stiffness, some longing of the body to move, and then let that happen. But not unconsciously, really be, oh, this is what this feels like this. Well, from here, I'm going to pass the microphone to Jim to do some mindful movement. Then Avi will do some announcements. And then I'm going to continue speaking about what I was through this, which is, in a way, the nature of the self and how we set ourselves free and intimate with ourselves and others. So, Mr. Dalton, is it possible again?
Attention, effort.
The batteries for this needed replacing after yesterday. Oh, I mean,
That was a long time.
yeah, it did the day.
Did the day.
Yeah.
That was too exuberant. Am I here? Yes, I'm here. Okay. I'm here standing, in touch with my feet. And we notice the intention to open the eyes and then the effort that was required to open the eyes. Let's make the intention to lift the hands about 6 inches and then notice the effort. And then release. And then twice that distance. Intending to come up farther. And intending to reach farther and come up all the way to the shoulders. And then release. So we have this ability to intend and then make an effort and then make a gesture. Then there's a point where the effort in one direction dissolves. So can we be aware of the beginning of the breath, the beginning of the gesture? Aware of that dissolving into release. And can we intend to follow each section of the arc? Takes a little more effort to be out here, and then there's a dissolving, and there's more and more surrender to gravity. The effort starts with our toes. It's like our feet are part of this effort to rise, and we kind of move forward a little bit. Then when we reach that dissolving point, we kind of rock back. We're not lifting the heels or lifting the toes, but it's just a gentle forward movement, lifting, and then a resting back on the heels, little by little, trying to stay with all the little changes. So concentration has two factors. One is placing, usually at the beginning of a gesture when you're working with Qigong. But then the other part of concentration is sustaining all through the developmental flow. And the dissolving doesn't take place in an instant, it dissolves in a flow. Moving forward and up, breathing in. How can I do three things at once? I can't do it, but the body knows how to do it. Once more, gently flowing forward. Staying with it, dissolving down. And then coming to almost stillness. The body never wants to be totally still. Then we can do the same thing with a different gesture where we reach across with one arm and then we get up to the shoulders, come across, just letting the vision focus on the palm of the hand, then press down a little bit. Not a lot of pressure, but just turn so it presses or it faces the ground, and then lifting. So we'll start here, place our attention on the palm, and then stay there and stay there. And then there's a dissolving. But the dissolving flows. And then the other arm, reach across. When the chin is level, we lock into the center of the palm, sustaining, sustaining, sustaining. And the effort changes. How do I effort dissolving? Our words don't really work for some of this. There's a lifting, focusing, sustaining, sustaining, and then dissolving. And the amazing thing about the body is that we can do both things at once. We can lift and come across and start cloud hands, letting the bottom hand be the shadow. Make another cloud, let the sustaining focus be on the cloud above, but don't lose track of the shadow until it dissolves and creates a cloud. Then a new shadow follows. But the attention is focused and open. Focused on a new cloud, but open to the shadow. Open to all the others in the room who are beyond the cloud. This amazing intention to attend flows into real complexity. Focus, sustaining, sustaining, dissolving. Focus. Robert took the clock. Okay, let's relax, shake a little bit. Let's bring our feet together and shake a lot. And just notice how your body knows how to sustain an upright position, even though you're wiggling around. There's all this coordination, all these different parts, and come back to stillness. So attention can be energetic or can be calming the waters of the heart. We gently press forward, exhaling. We come in with a breath as we draw the hands closer to the heart. And then we calm the waters of the heart with a smile on our face, a smile on our heart, a smile in the eyes. Using this power of attention to attend to this circle that we're making with each arm, attend to the breath, attend to the weight moving backwards, activating one foot in touch with the earth, then activating the other foot. How open can the attention be? Calming the waters of the heart is a phrase, but then there's millions of micro movements. And then dissolving back to the center. Lifting, calming, organizing into a circle, into a shift of weight, a rhythm of breathing. Attending to process and openness, but able to attend to particular areas that might be releasing or particular areas that might be aching, old injuries, chronic habits of holding. There's lots of events in this one gesture. One more stroke in our swimming in chi. And then dissolve. And then sink. Open the arms to the side. Bring the hands together above. And then come down to the top of your head. And then just kind of caress the head, the side of the skull, down to the shoulders, down the front of the body. When you get to the waist, move back. Feel the buns back there, and then the side of the leg, just relax down as far as is comfortable for you. No prizes for putting your palms on the floor. I can't do that. But then come around the toes and back up the inside of the leg. When you get to the belt, go around and back. Come back to the front. Do that again. Back to the front, and then dissolve into stillness. Let's do that again. Sink, open, palms come together. We focus on the contact, and then we slowly come down, and then contact, it becomes a flow across the head, the side of the skull, the shoulders, the front of the torso, flowing, easing down, around and back, to the side of the thighs and down. Feeling the spine melting down, relaxing, reaching for the feet, coming around the toes, back up the inside of the leg. And then the belt. Around and back and around. And back, dissolving. Just holding still as we get. We notice little tiny movements, breathing, relaxing, standing, simple attention. And then grateful for the opportunity to practice together again. Bring our hands together. Thank you very much. Couldn't find you.
It's in the back. You doing Dharma consults?
Sure.
I know you've got a customer. Oh, I told her to come up and talk with you. Good morning, Sangha. My name is Avi. I'm community coordinator for PIMC. My pronouns are male pronouns. And I hope you all had a good sit. And thank you for being here, everyone out in internet land. I would just like to share with you, as one working stiff to another, since we're all working stiffs, that my day got off to kind of a difficult start. It's like nothing worked right. I came in, and rather than clicking along, I kept bumping into obstacles this morning. And so even though I do administrative work in support of a Buddhist community, so it seems like I should kind of try to walk the talk. And so I got a chance to practice what Robert teaches about, listening to my breath and feeling my heartbeat and trying to be kind to myself and trying to remember to say to myself, this body is feeling frustrated. This mind is feeling frustrated. So it would be my wish for all you other working stiffs out there that in the week to come, if your work is in the home or your work is you generously volunteering your time, or if your work is in a place of business, that if things are not going right, that you are able to be really kind to yourself and listen to your breath and take a moment and just kind of know that it's all okay. That would be my wish for you. Got a bunch of announcements. Before we begin with sort of like the formal announcements, we do have some announcements from a couple of people. They will be short. Oh, and I think Clara, do you and, you and Jessica. I think that's on now.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Clara. We just wanted to make a brief announcement about taking care of the grounds here at PIMC. We're the grounds gardening coordinators, and we are in the midst of planning a fall, still TBD date, grounds work party, and we'd love to encourage anyone who's interested in joining us to think about doing that. We'll have a date sometime soon. We're also going to be working on making it easier to take care of the grounds on a kind of DIY, self-service sort of basis, and so that's also coming.
Yeah, we know there are a lot of people that have expressed interest because of our love for this beautiful place, and also maybe a little trepidation about, but I'm not a gardener, I'm not an expert. And I would say I'm not an expert, but if you love living things and you'd like to see more living things and happier living things here, then we invite you to contact one of us, and we're just going to try and make it super easy so that whether you come alone or come in pairs, you do so in a way that just invites you to be curious, to support all the critters around here, and we'll try and just give minimal but helpful guidelines. So that's our goal, and we invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica and Clara. If you have an interest in volunteering in the garden, please either talk to me or talk to Misty or Ipsia. Misty, are you here today? Misty is here today. Raise your hand. Misty is one of our co-volunteer coordinators. She would be happy to talk to you about gardening or any other way in which you want to volunteer your time. And then the other thing is, Danny, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I'm Danny. Hi. This is a bit of an off-site announcement. We actually have meditation outside of this place. Who knew? But I'm teaching a workshop called Yoga and Meditation for Chronic Pain. And the interesting thing is OHSU has been doing research for years on meditation and how it interacts with chronic pain. And Robert, you're going to be shocked to hear this, but it works. Yeah, it's clinically proven now. So you can just rest at ease. Clinically, statistically significant. Yes, they did all this work with fibromyalgia patients and breast cancer survivors, all sorts of things. Instead of opiates, they were using meditation and yoga, and it works. Who knew? So, it's a placebo effect, of course. Which reminds me of a story about a man who goes to see his doctor and says, "I have a tremendous pain in my eye every time I drink tea." And the doctor says, "Have you tried taking the spoon out of the cup?" All right. Are you in pain yet? There's a point to this ramble somewhere. I know. Obviously, I'd keep it short. I am teaching. I learned this training from the Carsons, are the people who are teaching, Dr. Jim Carson and Kimberly Carson, and they taught me this training. It's an 8-week course. Takes you step through step, and it very much is in line with things you've known here. It's very much about the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain. The second arrow is how we react to the pain. But it is an 8-week setup course. I will be teaching it starting on October 13th. I have a flyer. There's one up in the hall. There's a cost to it, but I won't, we will do sliding scale. Nobody will be turned away. And I think that's all the information.
And Danny, you'll post it to Connections?
Yeah, I'll post it to Connections. And there is a free kind of opening session on October 6th, and then it's an 8-week session. So it goes through this progression that I was taught at OHSU.
And it's not here, though.
It's not here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's at our yoga and Pilates studio in Northeast Portland, Northeast 24th and Fremont. Begin Pilates. So you can go to beginpilates.com and you can find out more information about it. And so there's yoga entwined with the meditation. It goes together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. All right. So going through as much of this as we can, as quickly as we can. First thing, we provide Dharma consults on a regular basis on Sundays. If you have an issue coming up in your practice or you want a quick on-ramp to developing a daily practice, Jim would be happy to meet with you for about 20 minutes today. Just come right on up to him after the closing circle. He'd be happy to set up something with you. I think he's got 2 or 3 slots available. In terms of volunteer needs, we always need people to help with the classroom and the little ones for the Sunday Children's Education Program. This is a great way of helping move this Sangha into the future for the next generation, because some of those little people someday might be sitting out here among all of you. And your support in that really is a way of perpetuating this. So we have a sign up on the homepage. If you want to do one-shot deal of just coming in for an hour or two, that would be great, but even better would be if you sign up on a monthly basis or some other kind of regular basis. We also need somebody, a new member of the greeter team. The 3rd Saturday, I believe, is open. And the greeter team is like one of our most stable teams because the people that do it love it so much. They love meeting and getting to know all of you. They love setting the space and hosting the gathering every Sunday for all of you. And unfortunately, Misty, who was doing that, she's now our co-coordinator for volunteers, and she has other responsibilities. So if you want to engage with this place in a deeper way, that would be an ideal way to do it. So you can see Misty about that, or you can see me if you can't find her, and we'd be happy to get you into that slot. One other thing, a reminder about parking. In order to be nice to our neighbors, it would be really great if you can, whenever you come here, park a block or so, within a block or so away. It's good for the traffic flow and the parking in the neighborhood, and the neighbors appreciate it. So things that are coming up. On Mondays, we have a weekly group, the Monday Night Book Circle, which has been going on for quite some time in a very quiet way. And they start a new book like every 4 to 6 months or so. They just started a new book last week. So if you are interested in being part of a regular Buddhist book circle, there's information up on the website. On Saturday, September 28th, Vic, he of the raised hand, he has some flyers out there. He's doing another mindful hike, and that will be on Saturday the 28th. He can give you information about that. On Monday, September 30th, is the start of our Noble Eightfold Path class, putting the Buddha's path to happiness into practice with Gregory and Christine. Information is on the website about how to sign up. On Saturday, October 5th, it's our first Saturday monthly day-long retreat. I believe it will be with Gary Sanders. On Sunday, October 6th, we've got our newcomer orientation session with Robert. During the individual session, the individual meditation at 9 o'clock. On Sunday, also October 6th, it's the regular monthly meeting of the Engaging the Dharma Initiative, our group that takes what we learn on the cushions and puts it out into the community as mindful action. A bunch of us got together for the climate strike the other day, and it was a very soul-satisfying experience. On Tuesday, October 8th, we've got our Skillful Speech NVC practice group. On Sunday, October 13th, we've got our second Sunday PIMC potluck. On Saturday, October 19th, please save the day. We've got a day-long with Caverly Morgan, a visiting teacher who has a wonderful reputation, and we are graced by her presence, and there will be more details about that coming soon. And if you have any other questions or concerns or ways in which you want to engage this community, please contact me. I'm in the office during the mornings, Monday through Thursday. And to all you folks out there in internet land, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I wish you all a blessed day. Thank you for coming here today.
This is a monk's begging bowl. It was my bowl in 1979 when I got permission to go into Burma for a week to be with the venerable old teacher Tangpulu Sayadaw. And the way it works is the monk barefoot walks, in my case, through the streets of Rangoon, but also mostly in villages, walks like this and in the morning and comes to a home where there's people waiting, and they turn, and then the food gets put in, and then they turn and they... That's interesting. Is that me? No? Oh, good. Okay. You never know anymore. And then what the monk is doing is being mindful and blessing the people who are giving the offerings. And in the Theravadan tradition, the monks, they can't store food, they can't cook food, they can't handle money. So they're mendicant monks. They're totally dependent upon the community. And we are not mendicant here, but we are totally dependent upon the community. We don't have a mother church or big organization. This is it. And so it's through all of our generosity, the generosity of volunteerism, the generosity of financial contributions, that all of this happens. And it's very much a part of the training, which is to take our hand and go like, there's so much fear that I'm not going to have enough, right? That's really a big thing, particularly in our culture. And to do this and say, well, I have enough, it looks like, and I have some extra to share. So the best way is to go online and to make a monthly contribution, which means you then participate in the Stewardship Circle. I always get it mixed up with the NPR thing. And you can also make contributions here or in the wood box at the back. And I'd also like you to think, if you have some particular skills, probably some polished professional skills, we need all of that. We're a growing organization. And so if there's something you might offer, then please let Misty know. I like this old bowl. Here it is. I want to say a little bit more by way of invitation to the one-day retreat with Caverly Morgan in October when I will be at Hollyhock. Caverly is the person who has created the powerhouse organization here in Portland called Peace in the Schools, where they're teaching mindfulness, and I forget how many schools, but it's a bunch of schools. And she has extensive training. She spent 7 years mostly silent in a monastery, and she comes from a Zen background. This is the write-up that emerged ultimately. Liberation Now, from the progressive path to direct experience. In a progressive path approach to practice, we sometimes fall for the idea that liberation is going to happen in the future. We're conditioned to believe we must end thinking, master practices, meditate for years, and purify our minds. Without realizing it, our beliefs can maintain the conditioning that stands in the way of our direct realization. Turning our attention outward to various objects in practice can be deeply helpful, and what changes when we cultivate our effortless capacity to rest the attention in awareness itself. What changes as we practice inquiry into the true nature of consciousness, and what tends to get in the way? So I'm sorry I will not be able to attend her retreat, but I hope you will consider doing so, because I think it's going to be a marvelous day. And then she'll be teaching on the Sunday. And, no. High school kids could come anytime, but yeah, it's not aimed at that age group by any means. And then I wanted to say just another little word of invitation to the Eightfold Path group. If you've never taken, I say this, if you can't name the 8 steps of the Eightfold Path, take the class. Because the Eightfold Path is the map. And I love maps. You know, when I go into the mountains, I've always loved maps and compasses and GPS units and all that business. And they've saved me a few times. To have a map can keep you from turning down the wrong valley. In 1971, my girlfriend Liz and I were in Nepal trekking, before trekking was a big common thing. And we went up the Modi Kola, the deepest valley in the world, actually up to Jamasam, and we wanted to go to Annapurna Base Camp, and the trail went down like this. All we had was kind of hand-drawn maps. And we were staying with a family, a Gurkha family, and we mentioned the name of the town which one leaves from to go up into Annapurna Base Camp, and we pointed up the valley, and the man said, "Mate, mate." And so we said, oh, it's the Mate Pass. That's great, you know, the way you make presumptions. And so we went that way, and we were quite skilled mountaineers, and it's a good thing we were, because we crossed a snowy, wind-blown, it was high and difficult. And mate means far, dangerous, and difficult. But we got over the pass, and then we're down. What side of the valley did we go down? And these valleys are really deep, like 3,000 feet or 4,000 feet, and the trail was tiny. So we said, well, it's a coin toss. Let's go this way. 3 hours later, it turned into cliffs. No map. Had to go back and start over. So the Eightfold Path is the map. And so Christine and Gregory have taught it. It's either 4 or 5 times before now. But they're consummate teachers, and they really know that stuff well. So if you haven't done the Eightfold Path group, and you can, I strongly suggest yes. Okay. I'd like to call to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison, my teacher for 40 years, who passed away 4 years ago. And Jennifer, my wife, and I were talking about how Ruth would be so happy to see what's happening here at PIMC. Participation in all the groups, and there's almost 100 people, I think, taking classes this semester or whatever it is. And PIMC came about through her generosity. I told this story many times. I'm not going to tell much of it, but that in the year 2000, she wrote a check. When I was visiting her, she wrote a check for $10,000 and said, "Here, start a center." And there's much more where this came from. And I went, I have no idea how to do that. And what I discovered from actually another teacher, a fellow called Matt Flickstein, he said that, I said, I don't know how to do it. And he said, your job isn't to know how to do it. Your job is to hold the vision. And the people will come to make it happen. And it's happened. And it continues to happen. So to everyone who's put any effort into the growth and development of this community, I offer such gratitude, because lives change here. They really do. The question at the heart of our dilemma and of spiritual practice is, who am I? There's a Rumi poem, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. But we do have a dilemma, really a dilemma, in that we get born, and then we go through somebody training, and we become somebody, and then we try to, we develop an identity, And we get indoctrinated with all kinds of ideas about what we should do and shouldn't do, and the madness of national identity and the in-group and out-group, and the people that we hate because they're a different color or a different political orientation. So we get all this conditioning, and we live in bodies which are incredibly sensitive. I mean, stunningly sensitive. And in this sensitivity, we encounter constantly experiences which are pleasant and which are unpleasant. And we're quite strongly conditioned for survival to pursue the pleasant and avoid the unpleasant. And even at the level of that burns, that hurts, and I'm going to avoid that. So it's really survival-based. And therein, in a certain way, lies the rub, because this personality, which I find myself saying, I'm really tired of my personality. It's very useful. I mean, it's here it is doing it's being a person, but I'm so sick of liking and disliking all the time. It's so tedious. I was in Florida a few days ago visiting my mother-in-law, who's descending into dementia, and Jennifer's stepdad, who has COPD and travels with the oxygen input all the time, and is having cognitive decline. And we went to see what we could do about preparing for when the system collapses, and it could be any moment. And but the point I want to make is, all three of them wear hearing aids, and Rita, Jennifer's mom, doesn't like them. So she showed up at breakfast and a couple of out without her hearing aids. And so what happens is the conversation gets a little loud, and then she misses something, or there's some comment made, and then she flares into anger, which is increasing with her dementia. And then she flares, says something nasty to her husband, and Jennifer, who's had a lifetime with this mother, gets really angry, just her own flaring. It's all, you wouldn't notice it probably unless you were looking for it. And then what's really fascinating is I get angry with Jennifer for being so angry with her mother, which makes it so uncomfortable for me. You recognize this? And this happened a lot. And my practice was to own the fact that this has a dislike. I don't like my wife being angry at me, certainly, but also angry at her mother, and she shouldn't be angry anyway, and blah, 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 blah. And so the point I'm trying to get to is, that's my conditioned self. That's who I think I am, right? My emotions, my thoughts, my opinions, And with the practice, there was, in this instance, there was only one time when I created harm out of that reactivity on that trip to Florida. It was hard. But my complaining or my expressing any of that anger was pointless. And so the greatest gift, the greatest contribution I made to that trip was in being quiet, of restraining my reactivity, because my liking and disliking is all about, I want it my way. It's very selfish, hyphenated. It's what Danny pointed out, the second noble truth, the liking and disliking and wanting to be something different, which is really the cause of suffering. Because the circumstances are what they are, and they can be very painful. But it's that I don't want it to be like this. This is offensive to me. This is my... So it gets all the agitation and the actual suffering to happen. So one of the features of the Eightfold Path, and it's part of the first aspect of the Eightfold Path, which is our worldview, to examine our worldview. And to adopt it as an experiment at first, but then we realize, oh, that's how it actually is. But to adopt the experiment of seeing through the lens, through the filter, which says there's nothing that lasts, which is anicca, not permanent. And everything this side of the Big Bang, the Great Flash, is nothing but change, right? And isn't it odd, in a way, that we freak out when things change? Because everything's going to change. Everything. And it's unpredictable. So that's the first great hypothesis, that there's nothing permanent. Is this true? Which is, in a way, the purpose of meditation, which is to train a mind which can then observe oneself and life to see, are these truths actually the truth? And then to live through them, or live by them, or to live inspired by them. The second, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. Anytime there's liking and disliking that's not noticed, and there's that, I don't want it this way. I don't like myself. I don't like you. I don't like, this pain is unbearable, dislikable. I get to use my second favorite English word. Dukkha is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's all the time. Even when we're having that really wonderful, you're finally having that great vacation, and this is the moment, and the sun's setting, and there's a little wondering, gosh, this is going to be over soon. I wonder what we'll do tomorrow, or maybe we can come back again next year when the sun, maybe. But so there's this worrying, in a way, that I've got it now, but it's going to go away, because it always does. So, is that true? And the main reason that we don't meditate, or that we fall away from meditation, is because the the dukkha gets stronger than we're capable of bearing, and so we stop being conscious. We go back to our addictions and compulsions. And then the third, the anatta, which is, it literally translates as none or no soul. It's a no soul hypothesis. And this is where the critique comes in sometimes. Before that, there's a critique about when the ubiquitous nature of suffering, of dukkha, of unsatisfactoriness. People will sometimes say, well, Buddhism is such a downer. Right? All they're saying is everything's suffering, and it doesn't say there isn't pleasure. It doesn't say there can't be great joy and love and compassion and so on. But you never have the dinner or the lovemaking experience or the child or the degree or the whatever it is. Portfolio never gets to the point where you can say, I've arrived and I'm going to be satisfied from now on, because well, that was really great, but now I'm still wanting something. And this separate self always wants something because it's a pass-through phenomenon. It's not stable. In fact, one could say it isn't. So this Anatta teaching is often, it's the last thing, it's the last of the great concepts that we Westerners really want to embrace, which is unfortunate because it's such a doorway to freedom. I remember in my 20s, I was studying Buddhism and working in a meditation center, but I didn't really want to spend much effort on this self thing, getting rid of. But but it is a bit of a problem or a dilemma. I have a self. I take this self very seriously. I have a child, 2 children, stepkids. I have 2 grandkids. And in the background, somewhere, I know that we're all going to die. We don't think about it much, but we do think about it a lot underneath, and we worry about what about when something bad happens? And so what if, and the Buddhist teachings are pretty strong on this, what if it were possible to develop a mind that was capable of observing reality so fully that it could see through the illusion of a permanent self and realize what we really are, which is the mysterious everything out of which this self comes. So it gets very difficult to talk about that, right? But what if that were true? What if it were possible? What if mystical, the thing all the mystics have talked about in every tradition for so long, what if it were true that it's possible in this lifetime to at least get a glimpse of that which wasn't born, or that which isn't frightened, or that which is completely loving, or the Buddhists talk about the unborn, the uncreated, the unformed. So how to do that? I mean, it can get pretty heady. It's getting heady already. It's like, what is this heady? So, but what if there were a path and a strategy of practice, or several strategies of practice, which could help us along the way? And this Anatta teaching is really exquisite for that. So we had a little retreat yesterday for volunteers, and I spoke of the time many years ago now, probably 13 years ago, when Ajahn Thanisaro, one of the Thai forest Western monks who has a center in San Diego area, was sitting here, and someone asked about this Anatta teaching. And people really struggle with it. And as I remember when I talk about this, Ajahn Chah, great Thai forest teacher of the last century, said, don't try to figure out Anatta through thinking. It'll make your head explode. And it really is. Like, how can you make sense of this thing? It's so counterintuitive. But Ajahn Thanisaro said something very helpful, which was, think of it as a strategy. Think of it as a useful tool. So, for instance, the next time you're caught in a really difficult mood, let's say anger or sadness or fear, the untrained human mind immediately goes to, I'm angry. You said this, and you made me angry, and I'm angry, and so this is how I'm going to go into my attack fantasies and so on. Well, if we're a meditator and we're doing the baseline exercises again and again and again, noticing mind is wandering mind. Come back to the breath. And we notice these wandering minds, they disappear. Right? They actually come into being and then they disappear. And so, as we develop the skill in doing that, and it's a trainable skill of self-observation, then there's this step which goes like this. Oh, wow, anger, and I'm angry at them. And then we notice, oh, there's an emotion here, and I feel this emotion here, or here, it's in my hand, I want to strike out, maybe, or my teeth, I want to bite. And here's this emotion, and here's this enemy imaging happening, and here's this, so am I angry? Am I these symptoms? Or what? And what if we were to discover that we're none of those, but we are that which knows them? Here's a remarkable hypothesis that I believe to be true. That this awareness that we each claim as I am aware is absolutely impersonal. It's the awareness of the universe that is, it's inexplicable, but it's real and it's cultivable. And so one of the very, I guess there's lots of first steps, but a first step is developing a meditation practice, which is like going to the weight room. And if I want to develop a bicep, I take a weight and I do this, and I isolate this muscle and I make it do this. And if I did this for 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour or 2 hours a day, I'd have an Arnold Schwarzenegger monster bicep before very long. If I sit down and practice mindfulness and concentration and curiosity and effort, energy, the 7 enlightenment factors, if I practice those, they get stronger. Now that's something to test. Is that true? So I practice with small things, and then gradually we deconstruct the self. Here's a really a simple one that's fun, I think, often. Is anybody tired right now? Please raise your hand if you're tired. Are you tired? What are the symptoms of being tired? What are your symptoms? Heavy face. Any others? Yawning a lot. Headache. What? Oh, foggy brain. Hard to think. Yeah. Huh? Eyes are closing. So what if you were to shift that from I'm tired into there's fatigue? What are the criteria? What is fatigue made up? And then there's this shift. I'm remembering a lot of years ago, I was very involved in the mythopoetic movement, the men gathering in the woods in Mendocino with Robert Bly and Michael Meade and James Hillman. It was a blessed thing for me, really wonderful, to be with 120 men and really being honest. But Bly came to Portland and he did a 2-day thing here, and it was 5:45, and I was wiped. I was close to the front. And he said, in his inimitable style, Bly said, "Well, is anybody tired?" 2 or 3 of us put up our hand. And he said, "Tough, we're going to keep going." But it illuminated something for me that I was tired. I was also identifying with my tired and thinking, oh, poor me, I'm tired, and I wish this was over. So this capacity of turning our subjective experience into an object is huge. One of the pieces of the Eightfold Path, one of the facets of the Eightfold Path, is known as wise mindfulness. Of course. So then, in order to set ourselves free, of what do we become mindful? What's the map? And if that interests you deeply, there's a marvelous book by Joseph Goldstein called Mindfulness. He gave, over the course of 3 years, 42 talks on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And then he wrote a book from those 42. The talks are available online. If you go to Dharma Seed, you can listen to those 42 talks, and let me tell you, that's a good listen. I mean, it's brilliant depth. So, who am I? What am I? Well, I'm a body. Yep, it's very convincing, isn't it? Give your body a little squeeze. It's, yep, here it is. But is it really who you are? There will come a time when it won't be. So that I'm a body. So then, let me just go through the 4. I'm a body. The body has sense doors, little portholes that consciousness gets to peer out in a way. So there are visual objects and an eye and seeing consciousness. There's ears and sounds, vibrations, and hearing consciousness. Same with olfactory. There are olfactory chemicals and particles that stimulate the nerve system in here. There's the taste, and then there's the feeling body, and then there's the mind. There's another sense door. There are mind objects, thoughts, memories, plans, and this is the map, but you can test it. And the statement is, every sense contact is either pleasant, I want more, unpleasant, I want less, or not yet valenced, it hasn't yet taken a position. Like right now in your body, there's tons and tons of sensations happening, but they're neither pleasant nor unpleasant. It's not needed to be motivated by them because there's no problem. So that's the second foundation of mindfulness, which is the interactions that the body has with the world. And then, so we're going from body to the interaction of the body with the world. And then we go in, and then we have mental formations. Thoughts, memories, plans, the whole personal neurotic story. The things we say to ourselves, self-hatred. And there's classes of those. There's classes of those that if I act upon them, it's skillful. If I act upon them, it's not skillful. But basically, the core, the place that I always emphasize most in there is it's about the stories and the emotions. It's the realm of, in a way, the realm of psychotherapy, where we unpack what our beliefs and emotions and thoughts are. And then there's the 4th foundation of mindfulness, which is the phenomena, the building blocks of our experience. And this can sound very abstract, but it's not. For instance, please become aware that you're seeing. Seeing. That's a phenomenon, and it's as real as that, but not in form. It's as real as that in perception and consciousness. So there's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. There's also the 5 hindrances. And sense, desire, wanting, lust, aversion, hate, sloth and torpor, dullness, sleepy dullness, restlessness, agitation and worry, and doubt. These are real phenomena, aren't they? We all know them. We all know them and we think we are them. And so the meditation, this fourth foundation of mindfulness, is learning how to perceive them as objects rather than who am I. I spent a lot of years checking out that map. You spend a week or two, and teaching it, and spend a week or two, or months, watching liking and disliking, how it happens. When you get a plate of food, you can look at the plate and notice there's a hierarchy of liking or disliking on the plate. When I talk about this, I always think of my fetish, perhaps, for really good olives. And if there's a really good green olive on the plate, everything else is trivial. And I'm not particularly fond of white rice. And if it's kind of, well, that's filler, but it's not aversion quite, but it's kind of like, well, I guess I have to eat that too. So, but it happens all the time. Like we look here, and is there a favorite flower? That'll have the pleasant valence more than the others. When you look around a room or look at a menu. So, all those years I studied this, and I got to know the map really well. And I got to know it as an experiential. And then it was when I was with that fellow Matt Flickstein doing some training. He said something that really crystallized it for me, which was, we study this four foundations of mindfulness. We study all these experiences that we have with one purpose in mind, to realize that none of them are personal. None of them are who we are. They all come into being and they disappear, they come into being, and they're all dependent on there being a body. And however, there is this other thing that's happening, which is knowing them. Something knows them. And then ultimately we discover even that is impermanent. But along the way, and this is the point I really wanted to make, who's troubled by particular emotions? How about particular thought patterns? How about self-hatred, self-disliking? This practice is intended to set us free from identification with those. I know in this body-mind process, there was a lot of self-loathing. It was pretty damn thick. And there's hardly any now. And my belief, my observation actually in teaching all these decades is that self-hatred is not that deep a program. It's not such a deep conditioning that we can't make remarkable inroads into it with practice. Because it really is. It's a pattern in mind. It's got emotion involved, and there's memories, usually unconscious, and we were taught it by our caregivers and by life. We were taught it, and we can awaken to it and start not taking it so seriously. That's when the Buddha said the taste of this practice in the beginning is the taste of freedom. We get the slightest little capacity to see a personal neurotic pattern, and then it's doomed. Actually, I love that in my counseling psychotherapy work and my Dharma teaching over all these time, is to sit there with someone who has one of those aha moments and says, I just realized my grandmother was so hurt and angry. she used to tell me I was fat or I'd never amount to something. And I say that to myself, or more accurately, the mind is conditioned to say that to me spontaneously. And I just light up inside because I realize that pattern is doomed. Once mindfulness touches it, it's gone. It's not gone, but it as Ruth Denison put it, darling, once you have the Dharma, you can no longer get away with yourself. So these patterns that have gotten away with themselves for all these years, once the light of consciousness lights them up, we can relapse and we do all kinds of things to to keep ourselves back, but it's pretty inevitable. And so we also just framing that we create community and we create opportunities for practice and we develop friendships with people who are of this ilk, because then we're kind of in a stream of waking up to free ourselves from suffering, to free ourselves from all the extra suffering we do because we think these personal patterns are personal. That making sense? It is paradoxical, but it's also quite practicable. Oh, so let me see. Is there any question? We have a minute or 5, maybe. Anatta, not self. It's a strategy, not a belief. We don't have to say, I believe in anicca, dukkha, anatta, and I'm... No. It's, here's the map. Is it true? Test it, and develop a mind which is capable of being like a particle, electron, those big particle accelerators they have, to study the smaller and smaller parts of reality. We can study smaller and smaller aspects of ourselves in thinking and feeling and emotion. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. I think of that as the Trinity of Buddhism. Never quite get away from the Catholicism. And then, but then also, why would I? Because at its core, it has this exquisite teaching of awakening. Incidentally, if you've never seen, in the first restroom out here, we have a really beautiful stained glass of the risen Christ. People have said to me, aren't you going to take that out? I said, no, it's the risen Buddha. It's the same archetype. So any question, comment? Bali.
Thank you. I'm Wally. I just read recently that some people were finding that there were vibrations in a tower in southern Utah. They weren't sure what it was. So they went and explored further, and they started putting seismograph instruments on it and everything. And they discovered that this tower vibrates with the same pulse, as a pulse, and it is the pulse of the earth. And that is the same as the pulse of our heart. The blood in our body is salty. It is the same consistency of the salt as the ancient oceans. The body comes from stardust. Without stardust, there would be no earth. The earth is just coagulated stardust. We just grow out of the earth. And I think your talk just here really made it more clear that this body is almost as unique from our awareness as the automobile we get into and get out of during the time we take it to move from one place to another, the house we live in, and so on. It's just one form of stardust after another. But we are at the pulse of the earth. We are at the salt of the sea. And the salt in our bodies, the blood in our bodies bring nutrients to all the individual cells, just like the ocean brings nutrients to the little bitty cells that make up a sponge. No different. That's all we are.
Thank you, Wally. Vic.
Hi, my name is Vic. And Robert, I think you've kind of spoken about the self, the ego from Western psychology. You also talked about something called autonomous complexes. And it seems like those are free-floating thoughts, emotions that seem to come up. Could you talk a little bit more about autonomous complexes and how it may perhaps connect to Buddhist psychology?
I can, but probably not now. But maybe I'll share this piece. There's a marvelous read, one of the most important books of my life, called When Good People Do Bad Things. It's a great read. James Hollis, Jungian analyst. The first line is this: the I that I know does not know enough to know that it does not know enough. The I that I know does not know enough to know that it does not know enough. And then the next few pages say it's basically Jungian psychology. The conscious ego, this experience of I, is a fragile island floating on a vast sea of unconsciousness we call the psyche. There exist within the psyche autonomous complexes which can and do usurp the ego. And you could ask the question, I could ask the question, do you have any compulsions or addictions which you know you'd be better off and healthier and so on if you didn't follow? Please raise your hand. Why do you do that? You don't do that. These autonomous complexes do it. And practice opens up the door to embracing them and identifying, and then ever so slowly shaping ourselves and loving ourselves for the ones we can't change. That's the quick answer. So please, thank you. I hope that touched practicality and that it encouraged you to practice. That's my intent with this talk. So please, let's make a big circle and have some room in the middle for the kids. And any of you who would like to come into the middle circle are more than welcome. It's the opportunity to blow out the candle that really brings many of us in.
After the circle is over, please join us for snacks and social time.
All right. Hey. We could just blow it out now before they get here. That's true. Probably not wise, huh? All right. Hi, Masood. Come on in. Hi, everybody. Did we have fun? Ooch. Fortunately, they're indestructible. Oops. So, dear parents, doing the hardest job in the world, thank you. So, may I have a hand? May I hold your hand? Thank you. And yours. It's so good to have hands. So, this incredible capacity of intention and thinking that we have, we can take charge of it. And once what would be a beautiful blessing you could offer to the person on your right? What would you really like for them in their life? Offer that with your heart and intention. Give their hand a little squeeze. It's quite personal. And then to the person on your left, giving their hand a little squeeze. What would you wish for them? What is your prayer for them? Of course, we can use whatever faith tradition we've been conditioned in to wish them well. And then including all of us here in the room and all of us that have ever been in this room since 1930 when this room was created. And all the people in the homes around us and all over the city and North and South America and Europe and Asia and everywhere. And to all our relations who live in the air, who live in the trees and the water and the ground. May all beings share in the merits of our practice. And now, thank you. It was okay. Who is the three of you? Yay! Here it comes. 1, 2, 3.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Wow, that was great. It's one of the things they teach us in singing. Hit that first note hard, and that was right on it. So, should we blow out the candle today? You sure? Oh, not yet? Not yet. You sure you want to? Is everybody in the room ready with your wish? Everybody at home ready with your wish? All right, take a big deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, go. There it went. Well, it's gone. Anicca. So thank you, everybody. Please have a wonderful Sunday and rest of the week. See you soon. That was great. Quick on the draw. It's hard to hold them back. My pleasure.